control. Her gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and these are our night terrors. These are our shorter version of the Paranormal Portal shows. I'm continuing to do them nightly because I want to help with all this isolation stuff that is still going on in a lot of places. It's loosening up in a lot of places, thank God. But while it goes on, I'm going to do everything I can to help keep you company and keep you entertained throughout the duration of this. Hopefully it'll draw to a close soon, though, because the weather's getting nice. There's lots going on. I mean, our town just announced that they're not going to do, well, the Lions Club in town here announced they're not going to do the 4th of July fireworks. And I'm like, oh, man, that really hurts. You know, it really hurts. Now, are 4th of July fireworks important? No, maybe not in the grand scheme of things, but yes, they are, because it's just such a time-honored tradition. It's such a symbol of the founding of our nation, and those, you know, the fireworks are symbolic for the grand battle that was waged and the, you know, the triumph. And I don't know, it's just such a beautiful thing. And besides, the little kid in me always loves fireworks, and I'm really going to miss them this year. So I'm going to have to get a firework fix somewhere. I'm just saying. I'll be hitting shrooms or something. Just joking, but welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Night Terrors. The phone lines will be open throughout the duration of this extravaganza that we call a show. 720-923-0500 is the number for fun. I don't know if you guys listened on Friday night, but there was that really weird call with the harmonica and the I don't know, like the monkey chimp breathing and stuff. It was really pretty crazy. Almost sounded like the Sierra sounds, like somebody was mimicking. It was very weird, very strange deal, but I don't know. I have no idea who that was or what the hell they were up to, but it was one of those bizarre calls. And last night, of course, we had our great friend Dean Harrison on. Dean Anderson. That's a friend from way back. Wow, that name just jumped into my head. Dean Harrison was on Saturday night, ladies and gentlemen, renowned Yowie researcher out of Australia, and it was a fantastic show. Just a epic journey into his world, and the narrative and the stories that he delivered were just incredible. I mean, it's just he's really seen some stuff. I can't imagine what he's seen, and how do you still go do that? How do you still, you know, go out there and how do you still research something like that when it's, you know, I mean, my God, anybody else would have just folded up. And I know he's a human. I know that, you know, he's not Superman, but God, he's got some intestinal fortitude to keep going back even after everything he'd been through. If you didn't hear that show and you didn't hear the first show, go back into the archives, listen to the first show. And at the end of the first show where Dean was on the first time, I put a link to the second show. So when you get at the very end of the episode, you get those windows popping up. But one of those windows is episode 2. So all you got to do is start the first one and remember to click on the second one at the end. And you'll have 4 hours of pretty spectacular entertainment with Mr. Dean Harrison. It was a great show. Gotten lots and lots of compliments on it. I believe it's one of our better shows we've ever done. Both of those are. So I hope you guys will check it out and definitely leave comments. Leave comments if you enjoy those shows. I've got to encourage as much as I can without being a jerk. I got to encourage you guys. Please leave comments. Please leave likes, because it's so important for feeding the algorithm and to get the show promoted. And I get lots of messages from people how much they love the show, but we only get a handful of comments. And where I really need those statements is on those videos, because that's how YouTube's AI promotes them. So if you don't mind, please put the comments there. That would mean the world to me. It would help out the show a ton. And, it just would be great for other people that are looking at the shows, to look at how many people liked it, to look at how many people commented. All of those things matter. So as much as you can, I'd really appreciate your help with that. And please, if you're not already, like and subscribe. We'd love to keep you coming back, and hit the notification bells so that you get notified. Sometimes I'm here and they're not working like they should. But, regardless, just keep trying, everybody, please. I was going to say brothers and sisters, but, everybody. Everybody. All right, so I guess that's all I got on the front end. So I hope you guys are ready, because it's time. Wait. It's time for bed. Boom, there it is. We are officially underway here. So let's get hard at it here. On the portal, I've got a story pulled up for you. You know what I want to do first of all, though, is we started a list on Friday Night Show of these different cryptids, and I know that's the title is Ghostly Encounters, but there was a few more on this list that I wanted to hit, because they were pretty cool. On Friday, we did just a whole different kind of show. Not really different than any other show that Don and I do together, where we just kind of touch on a lot of things. But I was going through this list from grunge.com, and I wanted to finish that because I hadn't heard of this one, and I wanted to share it with you too. But these are the name of the story is Terrifying Tales of Actual Monster Attacks. And this one's called The Werewolf Demon. And I hadn't heard of this one before, so I wanted to share this and the rest of them with you from this list quickly, and then get into other stories of actual ghost encounters. So first one is The Werewolf Demon. And it says, William Ramsey certainly seemed like your average Londoner. He was married, had a daughter, and worked as a carpenter. But many claim Ramsey had a pretty unusual history with the paranormal. When Ramsey was 9, he was supposedly possessed by a spirit that gave him super strength and insane anger issues. And in 1983, that malevolent spirit decided to come back. One day in December, Ramsey was suddenly overcome by a pain in his chest. Worried for his health, he rushed to a nearby South End hospital, and that's when the animal within took over. When Ramsey arrived at the ER, he grabbed a nurse and savagely bit her elbow. And luckily, a police officer and an intern managed to get Ramsey under control despite his insane strength. Ramsey was then sent to a mental hospital, but doctors couldn't find anything wrong with the carpenter aside from the biting. Ed and Lorraine Warren, however, were sure that Ramsey had been possessed by a wolf spirit. The Warrens were a well-known exorcist couple recently made famous by The Conjuring, and they flew Ramsey out to Connecticut, where they'd summoned a team of spiritual professionals. Along with the Warrens, there was a renowned bishop, a paranormal expert, and some reporters, and up to 6 bodyguards in case things got hairy. Sorry, that's what the article says. As the bishop tried to drive out the werewolf, Ramsey rose up and nearly tore the holy man to shreds. Thankfully, the wolf spirit was exorcised just in time. According to the Warrens, Ramsey flew back to England and returned to a normal life. As for the wolf demon, for all we know, it's still out there, looking for its next victim. And that's the thing with just general exorcisms. I think you just kick them out and they just go back out. I think that it's really important to really bind them and make sure they're sealed. You don't want to just kick them out. This one is Zombie Ghost Clown is next. And I thought that was interesting. And this is the last one in the list. So and this one is one year, 9-year-old Oscar Mendoza and his brother were watching a parade in San Felipe, Mexico, when they heard an explosion. Somehow a clown car had crashed and all the clowns were now lying on the sidewalk. And at first, Oscar's brother thought it was a joke, and he laughed at the surreal scene. But as the brothers got closer, they realized this was no stunt, and all the clowns had been killed on impact. Supposedly minutes later, one of the clowns turned its head and creepily smiled at Oscar's brother. And that night, Oscar's brother was still freaked out, majorly regretting his decision to laugh at the clowns. Afraid of being alone, he asked a cousin to escort him into the kitchen so he could get some water. But when they opened the door, there was a bloody clown sitting in the kitchen table, the same clown they'd seen earlier that day. Terrified, the children slammed the door and tried their best to hold it shut. The wood began to splinter as the clown hurled itself against the door, and all the while the ghost was whispering, "Let me in. Don't be mean. I want to play with you." Oscar could hear the wood cracking, so he ran to the kitchen and threw his own weight against the door, helping to hold it shut. Suddenly the family dog charged into the kitchen, and Oscar heard the two creatures fighting it out, and moments later he heard his pet whimper as the monster broke its neck. Then, just before Oscar's granddad arrived with a shotgun, the clown jumped out a third-story window into the street below, and when Oscar looked out the window, the clown was gone. After the police showed up the next morning, they found black slime on the clown's chair. The cops then told Oscar's grandfather to have a priest bless the house. This clown was no burglar. It was some sort of devil. Needless to say, Oscar never returned to his grandparents' home. And while they believe his horrifying tale, Oscar continues telling his story to this day. And while few believe it, he continues to tell it to this day. So I find those interesting. They sound really bizarre. They sound, really not your normal paranormal occurrences by any measure. Not that there is such a thing as a normal paranormal occurrence, but some things we expect, like, you saw a shadow person. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, you saw an apparition. Oh, there's cold spots. You heard growling from your closet or under your bed, or you're pinned to your bed at night. All that stuff makes sense. You saw a Bigfoot. You saw, a UFO. But when you have like a clown zombie spirit, wow, that's a whole different game. I don't know. But there is a saying. And these are old wisdoms, but I really believe there's something to it. You never mock the dead. You never mock the dead. So apparently spirits can become pretty vengeful. Just saying. Just throwing it out there. But all right, so let's get to the stories. Hope you're ready, because I'm ready to bring them to you. That's how we roll here. The first story tonight comes from Virginia. And it has to do with haunted places. This one's a little bit long, but not too bad. So let's see what's going on in Virginia, shall we? This is back when I was young, broke college student. A friend and I thought we stumbled on the deal of a lifetime. A huge 5-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms for dirt cheap rent. Those are definitely warning signs. If you find a beautiful place for rent and it's too good to be true, there's a reason it's cheap. That's all I'm going to say. The house was kind of an out of the way place in Virginia, but it suited their needs or our needs, and the rent was unbelievably cheap. Let me preface this by saying that the Commonwealth of Virginia, there are no disclosure laws in real estate, meaning that the buyer/renter is not entitled to know the history of the house before signing on the dotted line. Within a month of moving into the house, odd things began happening. The electricity didn't work very well. At first, we attributed this to the fact that the house was just very old. Built in the early 1900s, and the most recent rewiring of the house had been done in the 50s. And also the main breaker for the house was located outside in a barn that stood about 20 yards from the house itself and was connected by several crude-looking overhead wires. Whenever the breakers tripped, which was at least 4 times a week, we'd have to get the flashlight and go to the barn and turn them all back on. The electricity wasn't the only problem. We'd had an answering machine that never recorded any messages. Sometimes the light would be blinking and we'd push play, but it was nothing but static. This is before DVR, and we worked a lot of nights, so we'd try to record our shows, but it never worked, just static and white noise. And we also found it odd that pictures never turned out in or around the house. We went through 13 rolls of film before we finally just gave up. The first time we realized that we were dealing with more than just bad wiring was approximately 4 weeks after we moved in. As we were heading to the garage, which was only accessible through a door in the kitchen, or the heavy old automatic door outside, we came to a dead stop. There was a man standing in our garage. He just stood there and was completely oblivious when we screamed. My friend slammed the door and locked it and called out to the man that we had a gun and we were calling the cops. She retrieved the said gun and we opened the door again, but the man was gone. Just poof, vanished. As previously stated, there were only 2 ways in: the door through the kitchen or the automatic door outside. The automatic door was very noisy, so we would have heard it open. And we'd been in the kitchen all morning, so there was no way he got in that way. We were baffled, but we went about like normal after that. That incident seemed to open the floodgates, though, because after that, it became really obvious we were dealing with something just not of this world. We used to hear the sound of a baby crying, followed by the sound of a rocking chair up in the attic. We investigated and found nothing. Certain spots would always remain cold. Cold is not something you come across in Virginia in the summertime. Numerous times we woke up to find all the contents of the pantry on the floor. There were dozens of other odd things that happened, but I'm just highlighting some of the more bizarre incidences. As things began to escalate, we got more and more nervous. The pinnacle was when we were just sitting in the kitchen one evening, playing cards, and waiting for some guests to arrive, and naturally, the lights went out. So we went out to trip the breaker, and when we came out of the barn, we saw our friend running up the steps of the porch with a baseball bat. When we asked what he was doing, he told us he saw a man standing in our living room and then walk up the stairs. Scared, we crowded behind him and we searched the house with a bat and a gun, but we found nothing. About 2 weeks after that, my roommate's boss asked her why she never returned his call about switching a shift. Well, she said she hadn't gotten any messages, and then proceeded to tell her about the man in the answering machine phone, and told her she proceeded to tell her about the man that answered the phone and told her we were out. Upon further investigation, we discovered that several other people had the same experience when they called. We were thoroughly freaked out by this time, so we decided to ask some of the town's residents about our house. We found out that the house was always vacant within 6 months of it being rented out. Although we were scared, we still stayed because of how cheap it was. One evening, we were in the living room watching television when we heard a huge thud against the basement door. And when I say thud, I mean the whole wall shook and the door frame came loose. The door was locked, but we were scared and put a chair against it, and we could hear growling on the other side and claws on the door. So we again got the gun and figured at first that a wild animal must have just gotten in there. So we went outside to check the entrance, and it was bolted shut. We even checked the tiny windows, but nothing was broken. We finally went back into the house and opened the basement door. Nothing there. I've never seen claw marks like that before or since. It was as if whatever had done it only had 3 toes. Besides, nothing that was indigenous to the area was 3-toed or could have gotten in there without opening the door or breaking a window. Not to mention, none of the local animals, say a bear, could have exerted that much force to warp the door frame. Well, we moved a week later. We could never really come up with any idea of what had happened in the house or why. To this day, it remains a mystery. And to this day, nobody lives there for more than 6 months before leaving. Yikes. That's horrible. Whatever's in that basement, I don't know. That's creepy as hell. That's definitely not the kind of thing you want to be a roommate with, whatever the hell it is. That is truly freaky. But that's the paranormal for you, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of freaky, weird stuff. Oh, let's see. Just opening a bunch more for you guys because it is my endeavor to keep you wildly entertained in your time here in the portal. Great to see almost 60 of you guys here. Good to see you guys. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And if you're new to the show, please subscribe. Would love to have you come back over and over and over. Just love the return business. All right, let's get going here. The next one is Rhode Island. Hardly hear much coming out of Rhode Island. It's obviously a very small place, but it does come up from time to time. We had thunderstorms here tonight. It was just beautiful. A little flashing lightning and the thunder. I'd always been told that thunderstorms were great at equalizing energy. Like they would normalize the energy of a place or an area. So I always loved thunderstorms. And I enjoy watching lightning. That to me is just the greatest. Sorry, I got an itchy cough. All right, I'm back, I think. I'm just going to make sure I can see here quick. All right, so here is from Rhode Island. Let's see what's going on there. Oh, man. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. I've just been busy as hell. Man, today, yesterday, the day before, it's just been a blur this weekend. I hope you guys are doing great, though, by the way. Everything's okay in your worlds. They're all handling all this craziness just fine. I think we're almost through it. God willing, we're almost through it. But let's see what's going on in Rhode Island. So here's my story. Our home was a large duplex built in approximately 1900 and was built by the town mill to house the workers. My grandfather used to work for the mill and actually bought that house sometime in the 50s or 60s. When my grandfather passed on in the late 60s, my family came to live on one side and my grandmother lived on the other until her death in the 1980s. Myself and 4 siblings shared the apartment with our parents, and one by one my siblings went to college, got married, etc., and they all moved away. Me, being the youngest, decided to stay with Mom and Dad, live the single life, and have a bit of fun. Well, my dad passed on in 1995, so my mom and I lived alone until I met Mrs. Wonderful in 1997. We got married a short time later and stayed with my mom until her passing in 1998. Everything went well for a while, and then we started noticing things, like things just plain disappearing, and later they'd reappear in the same spot in which they were put. A few years later, I started renovating the other side of the house, and the tenants mentioned hearing things like footsteps, etc. Well, I just passed it up as being my grandparents checking up on the place and told the tenants not to worry, as they were very nice people in life. A while later, we ended up moving to the other side as our house was in need of renovations, and we heard noises and had lights, TVs, lamps, etc. turn on by themselves, and often in pictures you can see orbs hovering over whomever is in the pictures. Well, the renovations never took place as the state passed a bunch of strict lead paint laws and between the needed repairs and the fast rising property taxes, $4,200 per year, we decided enough is enough and had my brother put it on the market. One question I have is, should I tell the new owner about this or just wait to see if they bring it up? As I said, whatever is there never bothered anyone, but will it be different if somebody new is there? Thanks for reading. That's a great question, because I gotta say that just because most people may have real positive or just benign experiences with a presence in the house, sometimes these entities or spirits will just react sideways to somebody for some reason. And it's hard to know why. I mean, I think all of us can relate to the fact that sometimes you just meet somebody and there's no reason. You don't know the person, but there'll be something about them. And maybe you can't even quantify it. You don't even know what it is, but something about them you just don't like. And it's just probably not either. It's probably not like the person's just really a bad person. It could be just that, the two energies just aren't compatible. I think that happens, and, we just obviously avoid those people. But in a situation like that, where there's a spirit that is in residence in the house, they're kind of stuck there with this new energy that they may not like. And so they may lash out on that person for no other reason than they just don't like them in their house. Because I think, in the case of formerly human spirits, people that were once alive, I think that they do think it's their house still. I think that they have an ownership of it in their thoughts or in their belief. And when somebody's there they don't like, they will, I think, very much so try to sour the experience and encourage them to leave. And it's not always easy to know. I mean, it's happened many, many times. People have lived in places and then one person will move in. And for whatever reason, that spirit does not like that person and becomes incredibly active and may get very aggressive towards that person and terrify them. And it's hard to know why. I mean, maybe it's true. Maybe that person really is horrible, but it could just be that, that same thing for us people that are, you meet somebody, you just don't like them. You don't know why, but you just don't like them. And, it happens. So I think that it's important to remember that many of these spirits were once people, and they are still people in the sense that they're the same people they were when they had a body. They just don't have a body anymore. So, it can be whatever it is, just my thoughts on that. But there is definitely some people will move into a place and just have all kinds of terrible, horrible experiences. Other people will move into a place and have a wonderful experience. And it'll be the same place. And there's no real rhyme or reason for why, but it happens. So I guess spirits aren't above that either. If they don't like somebody, they'll let you know. I think it's important to disclose that kind of thing in answering that person's question in the story. Again, this story's quite old, so it's not, I'm sure they probably came to their conclusion long ago, but the story's from 2009, so it's 11 years old now. But, it's just food for thought. I think if you live in someplace haunted, I think it's important to let the people know moving in what they might be dealing with. Even if they just discard it and go, I don't believe in that stuff. Okay. Well, you let them know. But, I think it's, we actually were never notified about anything in this house. And I've since learned that, a terrible tragedy happened here. A young teenage boy killed himself in this house. And, we'd had lots of weird things happening and never knew the history of the house. And finding it out, I think was good because it gave me, in many ways, it gave me an identity. Because when it's unknown, it's just nebulous. You don't know what the hell it is. You just know things are going weird every once in a while. It doesn't make sense. So you don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. You don't know what it is. But after hearing that story and you know, the big swell of sadness and you know, pain that I felt in knowing that person was in such a painful place, it gave me a real compassion for it. And, you know, and so far since knowing that, I think it's really helped not only us, well, us, but I hope that it helped that spirit that may still be lingering here. I imagine it's got to be an incredibly uncomfortable place to be stuck somewhere and to not be acknowledged, to be ignored and, you know, overlooked all the time. That's gotta create a psychosis, you know, of some kind. And I don't know if spirits, and I've pondered this before, do spirits go mentally insane? Can they go mentally insane? And if they are like us, I think they could. I think that could happen, that they could just crack because, you know, their psychology would just fall apart, just being constantly ignored and overlooked and just never acknowledged. So I think sometimes the acknowledgement is important and it's powerful and it's cathartic and can be healing. But anyway, I'm spiderwebbing all over the place. So I apologize for that, but I think it's important to point those things out because this is all about trying to understand and come to terms with, you know, some really curious stuff that, you know, it's hard to understand, hard to figure out. So the next one is coming from Idaho. That's where I am, Idaho. Let's see what this one's all about. And has to do with a haunted place. It says Amity or Amityville Horror. Just kidding. It wasn't too bad. I moved to Boise when I was 15 to a big house on Amity, A-M-I-T-Y. Indian Lakes Golf Course was our backyard. It was such a cool house, and there was 3-story vaulted ceilings in the living room, which also had a curved staircase and open 2nd-story landing. And there were 3 bedrooms upstairs and a master downstairs. In the upstairs bathroom, there was one of those pull the ladder down to get to the attic things, except the attic was actually another room. It looked like it should have been an artist's studio. And when we first went up there, there were a few of those velvet paintings of cats with huge eyes and other rather odd stuff, but it was the feeling up there. The air just felt off. Heavy was the only other word I can think of that just explains it. The whole time we lived there, I was always nervous using that bathroom. And I always felt like there was something watching me in there. I lived with my parents and 4 siblings. My mom worked nights at St. Al's, ALS. And during the day, while she was sleeping, she would wake up hearing kids running up and down the stairs or laughing or throwing balls against the wall. And all of us kids were at school during this time, and my mom was home alone. My younger brother Daniel woke me up one night to say that he could hear someone walking up and down the stairs, so I crept over to the railing with him. Keep in mind the landing overlooks the living room, and there are floor-to-ceiling windows directly across the room from us. And I looked at the stairs, and there was no one there, but I could distinctly see big footprints coming up the stairs. Well, Daniel slept in my room that night. A few weeks later, my youngest brother, Billy, was digging in his toy box, and he was pushed in it. Except no one was there. He ran to my mom hollering, but he was the only kid even in the house at the time. My other brothers and I were out back. There weren't a lot of incidents that happened to me directly, but there are 2 that I really remember distinctly. There was 3 or 4 times when my alarm would go off at the wrong time, but the clock would say the right time. the clock would say something like 5:25, and it was actually 3 a.m. I would get up and take a shower and bath, or wondering why I was so tired. And when I went back into my room and looked at the clock, it would be 2 or 3 in the morning. One day, my brother Matt and I were out back building an igloo, or trying to at any rate. I felt like something was watching me, so I looked at the house and couldn't see anything, so I went back to building. But I still felt very strongly that someone was watching, so I looked again, and in my bedroom window, the blinds were bent in the way that you would bend them to peek through. Well, I just sat there and stared at them for a bit, trying to think if there was anything in my room that could be leaning against them. Well, I got my answer, because just then they closed. There was no one else home. We only lived in that house for 6 months, and I'd be really interested in if anyone else who has lived there sharing their stories about the place. That's one of the most haunted places I've ever been in. Plus, it was a rental, so I'm sure it's had a lot of tenants over the years. Yeah, there's probably a reason it's a rental, because they couldn't sell it. Or, no one wanted it. I don't know. That's a shame. I don't know. I would certainly try to cleanse something like that out of there. Especially since it's pushing people, pushing a kid into a toy box. That's a little aggressive, I think. At that point, I don't think you can play around too much with it. Let's go to the next one. And this one is, we got a call. Let's go to the call here and find out what's going on with our good friend Ramon. How you doing, Ramon?
Hey, what's up, dude?
Hey, good to hear from you. What's going on in your world?
Okay, so I always call you guys about other stuff and my conjecture on what I think, but I finally had an experience.
Ooh, wow, let's hear it.
Yeah. It was strange, dude. I was sitting in my living room with my wife and my 2 kids, and I picked up my daughter, and I was standing up, and then I sat down, and I leaned down to put her down, and as my head was leaning forward, I felt someone tap on my head 3 times.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Yeah, and then I looked up at my wife. I was like, "Why'd you do that?" And she's all, "I didn't do anything. What are you talking about?" Or why'd you hit my head? And she's all, "I didn't."
Wow.
And yeah, that's probably the most profound thing. That's the most weird thing that I've experienced. I've experienced other stuff, but I can't tell you if it's a dream or not. But I definitely was awake when this happened.
That's pretty profound.
And
that's powerful.
yeah, it was creepy, dude. It was really creepy. It creeped me out.
So you think you have activity in the house, or do you think it was a one-off? Hey, I'm here just visiting kind of thing, or do you got a gut feeling about it?
Well, okay, we live in a trailer, and the trailer we got was from an old lady, and I don't know if she died or not, if she died here or not.
Okay.
But that's what I'm kind of thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking. I don't know what it was.
Sure.
The only other experiences I've had have been like things that have been in my dreams.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, you know what I mean? Like I lived in another trailer. It was like 1,800 square feet, like a nice big trailer.
Uh-huh.
And it was probably the biggest place I ever lived in on my own.
Okay.
And she woke up, and she was telling me about, she talks about an old lady.
Oh.
And I don't know what that means. Yeah, she talks about an old lady. And then I had a dream one night after our first kid was born, and we were sleeping in the other room.
Mm-hmm.
and I had a dream about this lady who was she was like summoning me down, almost like into tunnels from houses.
Oh.
And there was like it was really weird. There was trap doors in the house, and then once I finally got down there was this old lady, and she wanted to bring me down there.
Oh.
And that was weird in that house, and she told me about that, and then I had that experience myself, but to me it was a dream.
Sure.
But but last week it was I was awake.
Wow.
I was awake for the first time that I felt something weird, and I know she wouldn't lie to me. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What the hell tapped on my head?
Well, that'll be curious. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say it'll be really curious to see if more activity starts happening, because sometimes these things are a progression of events. And you said that you've been dealing with things in dream state, and now it's worked its way into your conscious state. So I wonder if things start happening around the house, let me know. But if you get uncomfortable, try saging, or whatever your faith is, if you have one, to go around saying prayers, or, reading passages from a Bible, or whatever. I'm not trying to assume your religion or whatever, but
something good.
Yeah. Just, and maybe communicate and just say, hey, if you're here, that's fine, but no more touching. I don't need that. I don't want that. That's not okay.
Yeah, it trips me out because sometimes my kids do weird things, or they don't do weird things, but they react to weird things that I don't, necessarily understand.
Sure.
And they'll wake up in the middle of the night,
mm-hmm.
and they'll start crying. And I don't know if it was a bad dream, but
Right.
just the way they act is like they're terrified, and it worries me a little bit.
Yeah.
It definitely worries me.
For sure, especially when it's the babies, man. You can't mess around with that, because, we got to protect our children.
They're only like 3. Yeah, they're only like 3 and 2. I don't want them to feel like that because I love them so much. So.
Yeah, they shouldn't be scared to be in their own home. So, yeah, keep me posted, because if it does continue to ramp up, we'll definitely get you in touch with some people that will help you.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Yeah, it was strange.
Wow.
All right.
Well,
I'll
appreciate.
I'll let you guys go.
Okay, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it a bunch. Thank you so much for sharing it.
Of course. All right, man.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Wow. Yeah. That when there's physical contact, especially if the kids are getting freaked out by something. I mean, kids do have bad dreams. They do wake up crying. They just, their dreams can be just wacky and weird and scary, just because dreams are sometimes that. That in and of itself is certainly not an indication that something's going on. But once, if you start piecing things together, it's worth being careful, I think, especially when it comes to children, because they can't protect themselves. They don't know what they're dealing with. They just aren't equipped to do that kind of battle. So, and not that it's a battle, but you know what I'm saying? If something is trying to move in and create problems, then it's best to nip it in the bud, for sure. At least as best you can, because, the last thing you want is for something to get really established in your home. Because I think with what it is that, I don't know how to say this, but I think dark things are almost like an infection. They're like an infection, and they'll come into a place, and I think initially they're pretty powerless for the most part in a given situation, and that's why they try to utilize fear, because fear is a surrender. So they'll try to freak you out, because that makes you afraid, and if you're afraid, they get a victory, and they become more empowered because you're relinquishing your power with your fear. And that's why I continually say, don't be afraid. don't surrender to fear, because the fear is your fear is empowering to them. Now, some people believe they feed off of fear, like that's why they want to generate it. And maybe that's true, but I think that, they have to establish a permission of sorts, a permission in order to be there, in order to influence your surroundings. They have to establish a permission. Like, they just can't show up and suddenly start slamming doors and stuff. I don't think it works like that in most cases. And maybe there's some really powerful things that could do that, but I think your run-of-the-mill dark entities, they need you to surrender. They need you to relinquish your control over your space. And if you're afraid, and they win, just for instance, you notice some weird things in your bathroom and it escalates, and suddenly you're seeing apparitions behind you in the bathroom, freaks you out. You don't want to be in your bathroom. That's you're afraid of the bathroom. Now that becomes a territory. I think that they then infiltrate it like an infection, and then they will try to spread to other areas of the house. Now, this is just a theory. It's only my theory. I have no basis for this other than my gut, my intuition. Just as I've read thousands and thousands of stories, these things always start, usually 90% of the time, in a space. And once they happen in a space, and once they control that space, it expands. And so all I can think of it is liken it to like an infection. Like, they need to have a permission to permeate the home. And that surrender allows them to embed themselves into it. So they get dug in like a tick, is my point. So whenever things go sideways, you definitely, I think you have to take those things seriously, because I think it's important to get rid of anything that seems nefarious as quickly as you can. Now, nobody wants to kick out, good spirits and protective spirits and stuff like that, but it's sometimes hard to make that distinction. But if it seems ever negative, if people are afraid or being scared, and you've said knock it off, that's not okay. If it continues to happen, you've got to go right to the the nuclear option. You've got to get people involved that can get that out of there if you can't do it yourself, because once they're dug in, it's tough. It's like termites. At some point you just burn down the house because, there's not enough left to try to save. Well, it's kind of the same thing with really dark presences. Perhaps they recruit others. Like they, once they get a foothold, they may bring in the friends, open a portal and bring in some friends. I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't want to create fear through this show, but I think it's important to understand that it oftentimes is a war of attrition. Starts out little, starts out with tiny stuff, and it might even seem humorous. But if it ever turns dark, take it real seriously, because you can't screw around, especially when you got children, especially when you got a family. If it's just you can make choices, but when you got to take care of your family. That's got to come first. So, just my 2 cents, but I think I really do profoundly believe what I just told you. I don't know, I don't know that for fact. Nobody does, but that's just what my intuition screams at me. It's like, no, this is like an infection. It's like something that it permeates and embeds itself, and then it'll spread, and like a tumor. And you got to get on top of those things quickly, because, it's far too many people lose control. And then once it's really dug in, it nearly takes a Jesus to get it out. Really, it can be really hard. So anyway, let's continue. We got another caller here. Let's get to this. And is this? No, this is area code 509. You are on the air.
Hey, it's Brent.
Yes,
right?
Yes, it is Brent.
That's fantastic. If I was to hear somebody else on the other line, I'd be a little worried.
You have the right number. Thanks for calling in. Who am I talking to?
Good. This is Nick from Spokane.
Hey, Nick. Good to hear from you, brother. What's going on tonight?
Yeah. I had. That's a good question. It's a really good question. I was listening to the show for a little bit, and once I started to kind of figure out, okay, let's see, do I got the right number? I think I got the right number. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I dialed it, but then I could hear you talking on the other end of the phone, and I could hear you talking through
the computer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I started getting really confused, and then I was like, "Oh crap! What was I actually calling for?" Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no! What happens if Brent answers the phone and I'm like, "Oh no! What was I even gonna say?" And I'm at that, and I'm seriously, I'm at that point where what was I gonna say? I have no idea what I was gonna say.
It's okay. Did you have a paranormal experience?
I think what I wanted to call in for to begin with was, I think it had something to do with people that have an experience.
Okay.
Where maybe it's something that they've never experienced before.
Okay.
Or I personally have not had paranormal experiences, except we've had conversations about this in my dreams, where I've had paranormal experiences in my dreams.
Okay.
But never in my actual own life, right?
Sure.
And I guess to people who have paranormal experiences in their real life, I don't know what else to say except for there's some kind of a strength, There's it can seem strange. It can seem really, really strange.
Sure.
But I can't make words to it.
Oh.
It's something about there's a big difference between what's paranormal and what you experience every day in your real life.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it's like peeling open the Twilight Zone. I mean, literally. It's like you step into a different reality.
Yeah.
Is that what
Yes. Like what I experience in my dreams is still extremely strange. Like there's a feeling, there's a definitive feeling there where I can have normal dreams. Okay, I'm sorry. They're never normal dreams.
okay.
I'm trying to think. Where you could have dreams, and then there's something within your dream where it's like, wow, okay, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's when I have those kinds of dreams,
mm-hmm.
In a sense, I kind of step back from my point of view within my dream,
mm-hmm.
and that makes me say something strange here. It makes me understand. It makes me it's like flipping a light switch. I was in a dream, but then all of a sudden something strange enough happened where a switch got flipped, and
yes, yep,
and I understand. Whoa! This isn't just
right
a thought I'm having. I'm in a dream.
Yeah,
and this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, so I think in those situations, I think there's a normal dream, and then I think when we have those really paranormal events happen that are in our dream state, I think we're getting like shifted to almost like the astral plane or something like that. I think it's not, it's not the same kind of reality in our dreams. It does shift, it does transition, and it becomes like hyper real all of a sudden, and very, very lucid.
Mm-hmm.
I've been pulled into those states. I've greeted my father who passed away, greeted me in that state, and I'm convinced it was a very real experience. Also my grandmother that passed away, the same thing, and my old dog. I had a meeting with my old dog in one of those states, and it's so profoundly different than just the normal dreaming, because I don't remember my dreams.
Yeah.
Like personally, I don't. They
for sure.
fade. They fade so quickly that I just can't recall them. But these experiences are as profound as anything that's ever happened, and more profound in many ways than what happens with my waking life. They're just tattooed in my mind. Like I can remember every nuance of them. So I understand exactly what you're saying.
Something along the dream line made me want to call in and just say,
sure, well,
this, and I think, I don't have any idea. I have no freaking idea why dreams are so important, but there's something very important about dreams, and I think if I used to make a dream journal. Every time I woke up and I had a dream.
Yeah.
Wow, that was crazy, and I would write it down.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah.
But I'm no longer at the point where I have to write it down. The point of writing it down was so that I could
remember,
so that I could wake up and remember it.
Yeah.
The next day or within 2 or 3 days. Oh, yeah, that's right. That dream I had.
Yes.
I don't have to do that anymore. I haven't had to write my dreams down for probably a decade or longer.
Wow. Okay.
I just wake up and oh boy, I've got a good story to tell people at work in the morning. But I think there is something about dreams.
Yes. Well, they're an incredibly important thing. I mean, I think I personally believe, and again, this is my own ponderings, but I think that our dreams are us existing in a multidimensional state. I think that the dreams may be some other portion of our reality that we're not completely aware of, and so I think our mind tries to translate these experiences as best as it can, and that's why some dreams are just really bizarre. But I mean, I recall dreams where I'm talking to my best friend in the house that I've known all my life, except when I wake up, I have no idea who that person is or the house or anything. Like it's all absolutely foreign, and everything about that dream that was so comfortable and familiar, when my mind actually woke up and grabbed a hold of it, was like it was all completely foreign. And so it occurs to me that we might be glimpsing, a part of our multidimensional reality that we just don't quite have a grasp of here in our waking state.
Right. It's what is it called? There's a term for your soul being attached to a certain line. Oh,
the astral projection.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
And yeah, something like that. Where. It's something like that where I can be falling asleep here in my house, and then as I go into my dream, I'm in a completely realistic world where I can feel gravity, where I can feel the feeling if you go up a roller coaster and really fast down a roller coaster.
Right.
Where I have dreams of flying, and I can feel the forces, when I turn sharp left and sharp right and go up and down really fast, right?
Right.
And I mean, I don't have any way to prove it.
Sure. Right.
There's something strange where it's like, well, what's the connection between my extreme dream states where I meet people in my dreams and I feel things in my dreams?
Mm-hmm.
What's the deal with dreams? If there's any purpose to my life, it has to do something with dreams, because I've never met anybody in my life who has the same amount of vivid dreams all the time.
Okay. Huh.
I might go through 2 weeks of very extreme vivid dreams, and then for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I can't remember my dreams when I wake up.
Oh, okay.
And then the cycle starts all over again, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm having all these crazy dreams.
Right.
And then the next 2 weeks, I can't remember my dreams. I don't know if that's, I'm sure other people out there have the same kind of cycles.
Uh-huh.
Or something similar where you just wake up and you can remember your dreams.
Right.
And other times you wake up and it's just kind of like, oh, I think I had a dream, but maybe not. I don't know.
Sure. No, I think you're right, though. I think dreams are incredibly profound, and they get dismissed an awful lot. But I think you're right. I think there's something extraordinarily profound going on while we're dreaming, and I don't think we've grasped it yet, and maybe never will. But
No.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think you're on to something pretty powerful there. But anytime these things occur to you, please just call in.
Oh man, okay. Well, you should expect a call from me like every day then. I don't know. Maybe I should have my brain studied.
Sure.
Like just,
Yeah.
I don't understand why I have such crazy, just three-dimensional dreams. It's almost, it's like I'm lucid dreaming every night.
That's incredible. Yeah. It's a
I'm not
gift.
quite.
I think it is a gift.
I don't.
Well,
I don't know.
But I appreciate you calling in, Nick. Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to hear from you. And yeah, anytime you want to discuss dreams, just give me a holler. I'm not really well versed on them. I mean, I've had dreams, and that's probably the extent of my expertise. But I do think there's some profound meaning to them, and I think you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Golly, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get what dreams mean, and I wish it's like one of my life goals. Can I just please, whatever's in charge of life, can I please just understand what dreams are all about, please?
From your lips to God's ears, brother. Who knows? If you figure it out, you can teach the rest of us too, please.
Okay, yeah. If I figure it out, you'll be the first to know. Okay.
All right, brother. Thanks again for calling. It's great to hear from you, and I hope everything's good in your world.
Yes. Thank you. Same to you.
All right. Good night, Nick.
All right, later, Brent.
Yeah, dreams are powerful, ladies and gentlemen. They are powerful. I guess that's going to wrap up the journey for tonight. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I enjoyed bringing it to you. As always, I am working on releasing the podcast. I'm trying to, there's a new software at work that we have to utilize for this. So I'm going through it as fast as I can. I had visions of releasing it this afternoon, but that obviously hasn't happened. But the new podcast will be released sometime after I finish this show, maybe not too long from now, if I can pin out the last couple things that I need to figure out. Anytime you use a new program, there's a learning curve. And for me, that curve gets longer as the older I get. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing great. Thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate it. Good to see you all of you that are out there. Please make sure you like and subscribe and spread the word about the Paranormal Portal. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio. Make sure you're subscribed right here on YouTube. And if you want to help support the show, look at the description. There are links down below that go a long way to help us. We appreciate anything and everything that you guys can do. It means a lot. And it makes this labor of love that much easier. So, all right, guys, love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. All right, guys, love you. Have a great night and sweet dreams.